Bandai Namco apparently canceled several projects, including one for Nintendo. So Bloomberg started amidst these cancellations that they are that Bandai Namco is putting employees into a room with nothing to do until they quit, so they don't have to pay severance. This is apparently a very common tactic in Japan due to their very protective labor laws. But it sort of sounds like a loophole. Bandai Namco denied the allegations. Of course they did. But stated that after canceling, employees have nothing to do and some quit. Okay. I mean,
you deny it, but then you say you're doing it. It's
right. So do we think any major projects, any of the major projects that have been canceled, they have worked on Pokken Tournament, new Pokemon Snap, and are the main core of Super Smash Bros. What are you thinking?
Yeah, because they canceled a bunch after they just announced 3 million sales in a day for Sparking Zero. Wow. In a day, and then they cancel projects.
So I read a couple posts about this right after that news came out, and I thought this was interesting. So there's a thing in Japan called expulsion rooms, and they're sometimes used by Japanese corporations in a country with, as you mentioned, some of the world's strictest labor protection laws, but they said employees are typically given no work-related tasks, but are left with the knowledge that their performance will give managers ammunition to cut severance when they do leave. Many employees use their time in such rooms to look for other jobs. They're called expulsion rooms.
You're put in the room, you're pretty much being told we don't fucking want you here anymore.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I thought this was like very interesting wrinkle after that news came out, because the first thing I thought is like, is this a practice in Japan? You know, like
it is.
Is it a common thing that obviously here in the West we don't do that? So maybe it's something they do there in Japanese culture, and sure enough, yeah, they do that, and it's called an expulsion room. So yeah, pretty interesting. But that doesn't make it any better just because it's a common practice. I think that's unfortunate.
Just because you name something doesn't mean it's good.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
we don't do that. We just don't give them anything to do. That's like one of the primary definitions of what this is.
I feel like that wouldn't work in the West. I feel like people would be like, okay.
I feel like it'd be illegal.
Yeah, I think people in the West would find a way to sue and then somehow win in court.
Yeah.
You can't just keep employees on, but shove them in a room and give them nothing to do, hoping they quit.
Yeah, I think someone would go to court and claim something that has to do with like mental health, probably.
Yeah.
Emotional distress or something.
Yeah. Something along those lines, definitely. And they probably make out pretty good. But yeah, very, very interesting stuff. I was reading through some of the comments, and people are like, why don't you have them like at least work on a new Soul Calibur while they're in the room? I'm like, yeah, that's true, man. It's been a long time since we had Soul Calibur.
Right. The interesting part to me, obviously, besides like the shock that this is like a normal thing in Japan, very much is why I kind of put in the notes like loophole, because I'm like, I don't really know that their labor protection laws intended this, but it's kind of like one of those things that companies are trying to do to get out of paying severance, because for those who don't know, in order for them to let employees go, they have to first cut corporate salaries before they can do that. Like, remember when Iwata got all the credit for cutting his salary and not firing employees? That's actually law in Japan. You have to do that before you fire employees. Mm-hmm. Now, you can still fire employees after doing it. So they do get credit for not firing employees after cutting salaries. But it's one of those things that, like, they have to do that. And if you don't want to cut corporate salaries because you don't want to let people go, then you force them in a room and hope they quit. Because then you also don't have to pay them severance. So it's like a win-win for the business. It's definitely a loophole that they don't have any protections for that. And maybe that'll change one day. But setting the shock of that aside, because obviously it's a cultural thing and it's normal. And as Thunderstash said, if you get put in that room, it's over. Get paid to look for a new job. Mm-hmm. Get paid to look for a new job. But there's some interesting things about the cancellation aspect, because one of them was a Nintendo project that Nintendo was paying for got canceled. Now, for that to get canceled, I would assume Nintendo pulled the plug because they're funding it. Why would you pull the plug on something like that? And Bandai Namco last year just combined their studios together into 2 studios specifically for Nintendo games. And apparently there's an excellent YouTuber out there, Nintendo Forecast, did a video on this, and he actually went into how, hey, besides those studios, they had other studios making Nintendo projects. Like Bandai Namco is like almost all in on like making things for Nintendo, which is crazy. So, and I kept thinking, like, what would they have canceled? Like, look, we fully believe that Smash Bros is probably starting development here. And because Sakurai, he's done with his YouTube channel. He's got one more video coming, but he's pretty much done. He's going back to work, so you assume that's on a new Smash Bros. You're not gonna cancel that. The series is too big. In fact, maybe that starting is what led to the other thing getting canceled because they need more employees for it. But then you're putting employees in a room to quit. So then that doesn't make sense to me there. So I kept thinking, like, what other games they've done? Like maybe they were working on a Pokken tournament too, and they just decided, nope, not going to happen. We're going to can that. But then again, I feel like I might have saw that would have probably been in the Terra Leak. I got to feel there would have been a meeting, a meeting or some sort of letter in there about that, and there wasn't. So I'm not so sure it's anything Pokemon related. Because the other thing they did was new Pokemon Snap, and that sold well. So I can see them making another one for Switch too, one per generation. But it's like, but I don't think that got canceled. So I'm thinking, like, whatever got canceled, it must have been smaller. And I swear, if we find out it was like Star Fox, like, I'm really worried that it was like an IP we wanted to come back, but Nintendo pulled the plug. Because by the way, Nintendo pulled the plug on Bandai Namco supposedly earlier, taking Metroid Prime 4 away from them. So like they're trying to trust them with some of their big IP, and like Nintendo's not afraid to pull that plug. So if it was like something like Star Fox, and we find that out, like it gets leaked out there from some employee that gets let go, it's gonna be like, oh man, that's gonna hurt. Because we know it ain't being made anywhere else. So, like, what do you think this could be? Like, because I think Bandai Namco is involved in so many different Nintendo projects.
Yeah, my first thought was Pokemon, but I feel like we would have heard it in the.
Yeah, I feel like because of the Terra Leak, it's like we would have had an email or something.
I kind of am with you. I feel like it might be some weird one, which is a shame because like we've been dying for a Star Fox, but it also could be like F-Zero, Kid Icarus, something like that. But it's a shame because you look at new Pokemon Snap, and that's the best looking Pokemon game by far, and I think it's one of the better games. So yeah, it's a shame. Could it be something else though? Could it be like a Dragon Ball Z port to the Switch or something like?
Yeah, well, I mean, they said it was a Nintendo funded game. I don't think Nintendo would have to fund. I think Bandai Namco would just bring it over because there's money to be made.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like, people just noted it's weird because Bandai Namco doesn't, like, on the outside look like the company's doing bad. Like, for all the companies downsizing, Bandai Namco doesn't feel like the one that needs to. But canceling several projects, I mean, that always feels like, hey, we're trying to save money right now because our finance. Here's the thing: the fiscal quarter is coming up. Maybe, I mean, this is what it all is. They just know, hey, yeah, we sold 3 million of this, but our finances are about to be really bad, and we need to show our investors that we've already done something about it. So we canceled projects. We didn't fire anyone. We canceled projects.
Yeah,
but
hey, it could be something small too, like an eShop game or something like it.
Yeah.
My first thought was a joke answer, not actually to be taken seriously. But my first thought for some reason was, "Hey, you Pikachu."
Hey, you Pikachu.
I loved that game, even though I had no idea what was happening in it. I was like 5.
Dude, hey, you Pikachu, that takes me back. Oh man. Man. That's the thing. I just don't know what they could be working on. Besides, obviously, those a couple Pokemon spin-offs they work on in Smash, like those are what they're most known for. I don't know. I mean, they have other Nintendo projects, obviously. I'm sure in the works. They didn't close down the Nintendo studios. They literally have 2 studios that make Nintendo games, so those studios are still there. And I feel like even if those studios were going to close down, I kind of feel like that's one of those that they work so close with Nintendo that Nintendo would offer to buy them, kind of like with Monolith Soft. Be kind of like, hey, you guys make our games. Why would we get rid of you? That doesn't make any sense. But man, I don't know. This is just a funky situation. Obviously, the thing that's caught everyone off guard is the fact that like this is normal in Japan to like just incentivize employees to quit by driving them insane by giving them nothing to do. Like, look, a lot of us would like to get paid for doing nothing, but a lot of us would like to commute and public transit and go to the office and just sit there with nothing to do for 8 hours and then go back home. It gets a little old, you know, like. As much as people complain about our jobs, the busier the jobs get, the faster the time goes. You get through your day more. Well, when there's nothing to do, it is mentally grating as you're like staring at the clock for 8 hours of nothing. Just knowing that you got to get on a train and commute an hour back to your house. It's like, oh man. I mean, you get your lunch break, I'm sure, at least. Let them socialize, at least. Let them have a life. Oh man.
Yeah, I was looking at the games that Bandai Namco's done that are like Nintendo IP that aren't the obvious ones that we think of probably off the top of our head. One of them was the Mario Baseball. So Mario Sluggers on Wii. That was one of them. And yeah, I was just Googling right now, and there's a post actually on Family Boards from December 2023 report that Bandai Namco is developing 2 Nintendo games. So I wonder if it was one of those. The first thing I thought was, okay, could it be Kid Icarus? But I don't think Kid Icarus will get cut. I do think they're working on that. I think Kid Icarus is going to return, but I don't think that's a cut game.
Yeah.
Especially because, you know, Sakurai, his involvement. I don't think he'd be very happy.
Yeah.
I think you want to keep him happy with the way that guy works.
No, I'm pretty sure Sakurai can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. I think Nintendo wants to keep him happy though.
Well,
he's a workhorse.
He said he told Nintendo in one of his videos, like, hey, if I do think we can make more Smash, but I got to go in a new direction. And it's like, okay, Nintendo's just going to let him do whatever the fuck he wants because he is Smash Bros.
Yeah, he's earned that trust from not only Nintendo, but I think the entire Nintendo community.
Yeah, and he kept a massive online presence with that YouTube channel that blew up. And it's kind of like, hey, man, you just let this guy do his thing. He's got an audience. It's going to sell, whatever it is. Even if, you know, there's some crazy rumors out there about Smash. I'm not going to get into it because I don't think it's real. They're on 4chan. But like, it's like a Smash series where like it's a Smash Bros. Game per franchise. So you can get more in depth. I'm like, that's a really cool idea. I don't know that that's going to be received crazily well. Well, they're like, hey, hope you like Mario, because if not, that would be for you this time around.
That would kill Sakurai, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he could handle not being able to put other characters. Anyway, I'm interested to see what his ideas are for that. But yeah, I mean, Sakurai is the one that works with Bandai Namco on projects. Obviously, Smash being one of them. If it was Kid Icarus as well, you know, he would be involved somewhat in that. So, yeah, I just don't really know. I think whatever is coming, I don't know. I mean, we will probably figure out because some disgruntled employee who leaves will eventually just say something. Especially when there's no severance because they quit. So, like, what are they worried about? Unless they're on I don't even know if exit contracts are a thing in Japan. So,
yeah, I read that 100 resigned. So Bandai Namco has 1,300 employees. They've moved 200 to such rooms, and out of those 200, 100 have resigned. It said the people asking not to be named discussing private information. This is according to Yahoo Finance one day ago that 100 did leave, and they asked for their name not to be mentioned.
Yeah, and Bandai Namco put out there that this just happens. This is normal when we're transitioning and moving employees to new departments. I'm like, dude, you knew you were canceling the project. Shouldn't you already know where they're going to move to? You just don't want them there. Just be. I mean, I know. Here's the thing. I don't think they could say that out loud because I think the PR from that would be horrendous.
Mhm.
Like, even if this is a normal thing, like Thunderstash looked it up, it's normal in Japan. Yeah, but you don't remember companies saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a good look. It's like, imagine that like Nintendo's like, oh damn, it's the Wii U 3DS era, we got to downsize. Hey, we didn't let anyone go. People just quit.
We just isolated them for
Yeah,
months.
we took them, we put them in a room, we played the same Mario song on loop for 8 hours, and then they quit. You know, it is what it is.
We made them play Mario Party 10 for.
They had full benefits.
Everybody just wanted to switch.
Everybody's forced to play that non-stop, 8 hours a day.
Oh,
It'd be
man.
fun for like the first 10 minutes, and then oh boy.
Someone in the chat said a room full of alarmos.
Oh, God.
It won't function. It won't turn off.
That's good.
Open your eyes. Shut up. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I think we can move on. This is just such a weird topic. Like, I don't even.
It is.
What does Bandai Namco do? I always throw it in there because I'm like, I'm confused.
Mm.
Like, what is Bandai? I just. All right, whatever. Let's move on to the fun topics now. We got two big ones. And I think I go first, and I don't even have the one that I usually have. So this is a shocker to me, but this is still massive. And yes, technically there's a slight relation between our final two topics, but we'll save most